Holly, I think Gigi's right that there's some question there, but I think the defense would argue that there's this question of whether or not the drugs that George Floyd took were the typical drugs or maybe mixed with something else or something else was given to him. Is that enough to make this something that we should be listening to in this particular case?
If the Fifth Amendment was allowed to be sidestepped so that Maurice Hall would have to testify honestly about whether or not he was dealing those drugs and whether or not those drugs were what George Floyd consumed and had purchased from him, then yes. But that's exactly what the Fifth Amendment is designed to do. It protects the person who, if they testify honestly, is going to incriminate themselves in the multiple drug charges that he's charged with. So, really, the whole point of the Fifth Amendment is to say, I'm not going to be able to be forced to testify in open court about something that's going to get me in even more trouble and incriminate me and help the prosecution charge me later in this crime. And so, because the heart of the information that the defense wants to elicit from Maurice Hall is something that is protected by the Fifth Amendment, I would be very surprised if Judge Cahill allowed him to testify, which is why I think the judge's ruling this morning, which was a creative argument, I think, on the judge's behalf, is to say, all right, Mr. Nelson, if you'd like to submit some questions that would not incriminate Mr. Hall, I will consider it. I think we'll find that the questions that Mr. Nelson wants to ask Maurice Hall are exactly those that the Fifth Amendment protects.
Yeah, I'm sure that Nelson would like, at the very least, to have Hall on the stand invoking his Fifth Amendment right in front of the jury. Do you think that that's going to happen? Or do you think that the judge will simply say he can invoke his Fifth Amendment right and therefore does not have to come in at all?
Absolutely, Heather. You and I both know how effective and dramatic it is to get a bad character, a bad actor, and that's how the defense is going to portray Mr. Hall. They're going to tie that bad character to George Floyd so that the jurors are no longer feeling as sympathetic for a person who's on pain pills and opioids, buying drugs on the street from drug dealers who are abusing their girlfriends and subject to protective orders that they're violating currently. The defense wants to bring that person up and have him say over and over, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right. And in some states, you're allowed to do that, and the court can infer, the jury can infer what the answer is from that canned response. And so this defense would love to get Maurice Hall up there to say over and over, because then if the jury knows exactly or the court knows exactly what that witness is going to say, and it's just I invoke the Fifth, then all the focus and attention goes right back onto the attorney, and then Nelson has the spotlight. He can say whatever he wants within reason and to tell the story however he wants because he knows his witness is just going to say, I invoke the Fifth. So we almost start to forget what Maurice Hall says and focus solely on Nelson and his story and his defense. And it becomes almost a closing argument.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and we'll see it play out a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, our own Kim Johnson is there on the ground watching this trial, paying attention to what's going on around the courthouse, and she's going to fill us in. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.